this is uh this is one of those rivalries that I thought I appreciated from afar before I became the Virginia coach. And now that I'm been here in Charlottesville for 9 years and have had a lot of experiences going against the Maryland Terrapins and John Tillman, I get to really, really appreciate the depth of this rivalry and the historical significance of it. And it's a there's there's an intensity, there's a ferocity, but also a ton of respect because of the fantastic lacrosse players that have gone through the Maryland program and how well coached they are. But yeah, it's a special treat to be a part of this, and I've really, I want to say I've enjoyed it all, but that's not always true because we've certainly taken our share of lumps from the Terrapins, and boy, do they look really, really good again this year in 2025.
If you guys would just utilize the raise hand feature and I'll call on you accordingly. But Jeff White, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, Lars, this was played, tried it at a neutral site at Audi Field. Have you enjoyed the move back to campus sites? And if so, why would that be your preference if it is?
Yeah, because if you remember in 2022, it didn't go so well for us.
Uh,
So we actually played them twice at neutral site games, once at Audi Field and once in the quarterfinals at Columbus, Ohio. And neither of those games in 2022 were close. So I'm enjoying being back on the campuses. And that's essentially my answer almost every time. Like, let's play in Charlottesville or let's play, our opponent's venue. The crowds are bigger and better. It's more intense. You can feel you can feel the rivalry and the passion more from the fans. Now, yes, we just played in Houston, Texas. Um, what's unique about that is that's more of like when you talk about a destination wedding, I'm okay with a neutral site if it gets us into an emerging market for recruiting opportunities, and if it gets us an opportunity to expose our men to career networking in a city or region that we normally wouldn't go to. And so that's why Houston, Texas was an absolute grand slam for us last week, thanks to Mark Wade and the Stepanians setting up an incredible lineup of speakers to learn about the energy field. But yeah, play in Maryland, it feels right that that's in Charlottesville and College Park.
Matt and then Kira.
Coach, you mentioned it there being in Houston last week, but it's been a long while since you guys have played in Charlottesville, three straight games on the road. What did you take away from that road trip? Obviously, faced some adversity, but to get the guys, back in Charlottesville for a bit, how's the team responded to that adversity, and especially with the Towson win last week?
Sure, I tell you, we're on spring break, so that allowed us to take those couple days and go down to Houston. It was it was another wonderful experience. This team, the 2025 Virginia Cavaliers, is really bonded. There's a connection. And I want to give the three captains, Noah Chismar, Jack Walsh, and Ben Ware, tremendous credit. They're doing more than other years' leaderships groups have done, keeping this group tight despite the three losses that we've already incurred. So this group is cohesive. And that trip to Houston, I felt us bond even tighter. So we're having a lot of fun, and obviously winning is our mission, and it's the result that when you come to Virginia is what you have to pursue. We don't play for moral victories here, but I want to give credit to our men at being really, really tight. Coming back to Charlottesville here as we were finishing up spring break, um, I'm feeling a really positive energy. I'm feeling that guys are enjoying getting away from classes for a few days, and they've done some more bonding here. I've heard stories of them getting together just about every night. So it's been good to get back to work here. It's good to see them bonding, and certainly we're excited to be up at Clockner and finally be on Clockner, where it's above 40 degrees. Those first three home games were not very hospitable to our loyal and faithful fans. So I'm glad they're going to get an opportunity to be able to enjoy what you really think of when you think of Clockner. and a Saturday in the spring, 70 degrees and some fast-paced lacrosse.
What have you just noticed about Maryland so far and how they've been playing, and maybe some things that may pose as a challenge for you guys when you go up against them?
Yeah, great question. So many challenges. Let's start with the goal. Logan McEnany. I literally the other day as we were preparing our scouting report, I was going through my notes and going through my brain, like the video in my brain, the images. I'm like, wait a minute, we were playing this guy in 2021, in the national championship game. He's still there. Holy cow! And he seems to be playing the best lacrosse of his career now in his fifth year in College Park. That's 66% goal percentage. He is playing fantastic lacrosse. The defense in front of him, they are winning a lot of their matchups. Starting with Will Schaller, who's getting the premier matchups, but Burlace and Canfield and McDonald, the long stick midi, they are doing a fantastic job. And then the short stick team middies, they're tough to run by. So you've got a defense coached by Bernhardt that is not giving you a lot. You got to earn every inch you get. And then there's a goalie behind him who's erasing a lot of the mistakes. And we're seeing some really low scores, to hold a really powerful Syracuse team to 7, and their most recent output only giving up 3 to Delaware. So it's going to take all hands on deck for our offense, really being smart and poised. Offensively, there's some fantastic lacrosse players. There are Tewaaraton honorees on that offense between Spanos, Urksa, Kelly's a heck of a shooter, and then the midfielders. What I'm really impressed with, this offense, and I'm going to steal a line from one of my men who brought this up the other day, George Fulton. This offense seems addicted to the perfect shot. They don't take bad shots. They're just so patient. They throw one more pass, one more pass. A lot of teams would take this shot, not Maryland. They're going to move it for one more. Up, that's even a better shot. Now we'll take that shot. So they'll the threat that we see from them is they will play fast. And we've experienced that in the past. Sometimes there's there's the idea that, okay, it's going to be Virginia trying to run and gun and Maryland trying to be patient. Oh, no. We've seen Maryland run, and I'm seeing them really run well this year, especially when they highlighted that Notre Dame win. And so we've got to be ready for them in the first 20 seconds of the 80-second shot clock, throughout the whole middle 20, middle 40, I should say, and then the last 20, because they may still have the ball, still probing for that ideal shot. And so it's such a well composed, poised offense with a lot of talent in there.
Jeff and then Matt.
3 of your most talented freshmen are watching from the sideline this season. What about the rest of that class? Are there guys who are coming on and impressing you? And if so, who?
Yeah, certainly. They start with the 6-footers, with Luke Hublitz and Tommy Snyder. They're getting playing time every game. Neither's a starter right now because we have so much veteran experience that returned this year on defense with Fulton, Kaloji, McNeil, Ware, and even Max Wooten's playing some really good lacrosse right now. But yes, Snyder and Hublitz, Hudson Houseman. You see him sometimes on offense. You see him a lot on defense. He's in the rotation with the short stick middies, as is JP Lagunowicz. So it's a really talented class. We're really super excited about this first year class, the class of 2028. But yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, those 3, Ryan Dunkel, Kyle Colsey, and Sean Brown, are all redshirting this year due to injury. But it's great to see some of those guys on the defensive end giving us good minutes when there wasn't obvious minutes to be earned because of all the veteran leadership that returned.
Coach, you've talked in the past about not wanting your guys to get too high or too low, kind of managing that energy level and finding a balance. I imagine, it's not a concern about them not being able to get up for an opponent like this, what with the rivalry and them ending your season last year, plus the number 1 ranking they have in front of their name. How do you go about approaching a game like this when you don't really have to drive home how big this game is, but just to kind of keep them level and focus on, executing and the lacrosse part of the game?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. And that's where what I'm passionate about is if I can maintain a consistent approach with each and every opponent, um, regardless of their rank. Now, yes, sometimes we play an opponent on a Tuesday and we only have 1 or 2 days to get ready for them. But if we have a normal week, I don't want our men to see me acting, behaving, or preparing in a different way. The words are different, and we do scouting report on Wednesdays. The messaging could be a little different from one opponent to the next. But yeah, Dom Starsia had the old expression, there's no big games. That was his way of saying, hey, let's treat every opponent the same. And his men used to bust his chops if they were playing on a Memorial Day Monday, hey, no big games, no big games. And and so for me, my way is just try to be the same, and recognizing that we're going to assess our opponent, create a scouting report, create a game plan to try to attack that opponent or take away or defend their strengths, and not get too much caught up in the rivalry. I know we're going to get plenty of it from the social media and from you, from the true media, and so I know they're feeling it. And so I guess if to truly give you the answer is, it's probably maybe a little bit of like, hey, enjoy this, embrace this. Big breaths, big breaths. I always can sort of take away a little bit of tension, um, and have fun. Really, you picked up a lacrosse stick at age 7 or 10 or whatever it was. You're passionate. You enjoyed it. You daydreamed about being a part of games like this. Great. Big breath. Get back to neutral. Don't let the highs too high, lows too low. Get back to neutral, and execute the game plan and have a lot of fun.
Dak?
Hey, sorry for jumping on late. I was having some internet issues here. But Coach, I know you started Matt in goal against Towson. What motivated that decision, and what'd you see from him in Texas?
Yeah, the week before, as we got ready to play Johns Hopkins, it was really close. When we do our assessments of our own team and do our depth chart as a coaching staff, it was close. And then, Kyle made some good saves against Hopkins, but we didn't get enough saves. And so I was like, all right, let's keep this open. Let's stay open-minded here. And then as we entered the week going into preparing to travel to Houston to play Towson, I kept seeing things, and the other staff members saw things that, Matt just gives us a little bit more calming presence with the clearing and riding. And now, having said that, we did fail our first 3 clears against Towson, but from there we got into a better routine, into a rhythm. Um, we It was like, you know what, let's go with the guy who's got a lot of experience. Let's go with a man who's been here as a starter. Kyle Morris may be truly a better stopper, but Matt Nunes, he's been in these big moments. We need to get this win in Houston. And so it was for our staff, it certainly said, and it wasn't that easy. I mean, it was still debate, but it was like, let's give Matt Nunes a start. Did it have anything to do with the fact we're playing in Houston, Texas, and he was a half hour from home? Maybe a little bit, but it was really the fact that we just hadn't gotten enough saves, and we just needed a little bit more poise in the clearing and riding. And Matt certainly gave us that against Towson. So having said that, it's still a battle. Kyle Morris knows this. We haven't just anointed Matt Nunes the starting goalie of the rest of the year. But what Matt did in Houston certainly gives him the leg up to be the starter on Saturday. We do our depth chart in about an hour.
Matt?
Coach, you mentioned earlier, given Maryland's strength on defense, that it was going to be all hands on deck for your offense just to try to execute against them. We saw a bit of that in the Towson game on Saturday. At one point, you subbed out the attack line and put in, Mikey Harmeyer, Tucker Mullen, and they can, provided that spark. I feel like you guys were looking for. What are your thoughts, I guess, on extending that depth and just feeling like you can have, a full third midfield potentially, or just how many offensive guys, are are on the table to be used in any given situation, especially going into a game like this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. And my men cringe when I use weather as a variable because they're like, Coach, we're fine. 35 degrees, we can stand here for 30 minutes and go play high level lacrosse. I just worry about that. I really do. In those first couple games, the weather was rotten. And can you stand there for 30 minutes and then go in and make a precise play while getting chopped and beat on and so when we went down to Houston, Texas, it was 80 degrees. Now I don't have to worry about that. And so it's like, let's give these other guys a chance. And they go right away and score a goal. Tucker Mullen finding Mikey Harmeyer and giving us a big juice goal in that third quarter when the score was really close. We're seeing it more so from this year's team than other years. Our scout offense, we call them a scout offense because they run the other team's offense for our first defense all week. They are scoring goals on our first defense and they are putting up points in practice. They're earning it. And now as the weather is turning into the favor where you can look to somebody and say, hey, go get in there and make a play. I do see us doing more and more of that. The smiles on the team's faces as soon as we met after the game was over and we were about to go shake hands with Towson. There was more of them, but also the words that I heard from Jack Walsh and Noah Chismar, the two of our captains, like that was a team win. And you can understand why they said that, but you could really feel I could feel the meaning. Like that felt really good to them as captains. That Henry Metz, our third faceoff man, went in there and won us 4 faceoffs. That Matt Nunes, who hadn't been a starter yet, played really well. That Menke, who hadn't put up a bunch of goals, scored 3 goals. That other players are stepping up. And I think this team, as I was saying earlier, really enjoys each other. And it sounds like coach speak, but I've seen some teams that don't love each other, but still play really good lacrosse. This team, maybe we're not playing the best lacrosse yet, but to have their teammates participate and have more participation, this group really finds that meaningful.
Any other questions for Coach?
Well, I appreciate all the interest in Virginia lacrosse, despite the slow start, and we're gonna keep plugging away in this. As you know, that phrase I've used oftentimes in the past: the race to improve. The season's a race to improve. We got a lot of improvement to do.